back again with Zanance's USAR, and I'm running out of content to say in these voiceovers anymore. MIC has been generous with their interviewees lately, and joining us today is Lieutenant Colonel Nativlist.
Hello, I am Nativlist, also previously known as Amber Wolf Alpha. I am currently in MIC, also known as Military Intelligence Command, and I have been serving with this command for at least, I believe, 2 months. There are many reasons, really. I've been going back and forth between, being part of USAR and not being part of USAR, but I would say the first time I joined USAR was probably when I was 11. And I really don't remember the reason why. I just remember, being intrigued by the group. And I was wondering how, the community would be. So I decided to join when I was, 11. And that was like, I think 2017. And USAR was pretty different back then. For the second time I rejoined, I'm pretty sure it was because I had a close friend who wanted me to be, helping him lead NPC, which led through another journey. The third time, I believe, would be simply me being bored. MIC, it's kind of a interesting command. It's not like, Force Con where you have to be actively in game, and it's not like NPC or Trade-Off that it, mandates you to be in game and, do things in game. In MIC, it's a mixture of doing Discord work and going on game depending on your role. As for my role, I really don't need to get in game at all. Like, maybe the last time I went in game was probably like a few weeks ago. And that was probably the first time I actually even gone in game for like the first time in like maybe a year and a half. I'm not sure. But there are, some duties and standards that you have to meet. And whenever you're given a task, you're expected to, finish that task. But otherwise, I think MIC is better suited for people that are like busy, but want to do something in the community. So I think MIC is pretty laid back. But when it wants to be, more proactive, it would be proactive. The same reason as I stated with, what's like an MIC, I really don't have to make a time management with USAR and my real life because most of what I can do for MIC can be done through phone. So like whenever I decide to, take a break from whatever I'm doing, whether it be commission work, studying, anything like that, I can just look on Discord for like a brief moment, look at the group chats I have, anything I need to reply to, anything I should, put my say to. It's really easy. It's not really that hard. I mean, it can probably be different for, people depending on the role in MIC, but for me, I don't really need to worry much about time management. Even though I do have time management, I don't really incorporate USAR into it as much because it's not really time demanding. If we're gonna be comparing from 2017 to 2023, I would say it has come very far, especially in terms of the community, because when I first joined USAR back in 2017, things were quite a lot more simpler, but at the same time, you also had people who did more for municipal things, things that we don't really do anymore. I don't know how exactly to explain it, but throughout my time in UCR, I see that we have advanced in how we manage our, tasks and how we, provide some sort of experience to each and every user in this game. And especially with, if you want to talk about the group politics, it has definitely changed. I would say while, things were simpler, it was also more complicated in terms of politics because there were a lot of ongoing things, which I can most likely explain when, I get to the topic of army staff. My time in army staff was very hectic and chaotic because I went through pretty much two different eras as army staff, one under Cyberwolves and one under Zanance. The Cyberwolves one was pretty, to say the least, not really chaotic, but very chaotic, but also a little bit of a scary experience at the same time because I went through quite a bit of the hoops of trying to get myself out of a very serious situation that involved one of several previous hackers, I guess. I don't know how you would really call them, but who really wanted, to target me for whatever reason. But moving on, I went through the whole USAR revolution between Cybervolt's 44 shooter and Zanance. And that's about one of the time when Zanance got the group. And it took a bit for me to, build some sort of relation between Zanance and I, as we kind of really didn't have a good, a good starting point. So it took time, but as I worked my way up and went into army stuff, I would say I went through a couple of CSAs actually. I went through initiatives, I went through Nick Model, I went through Zanance actually, and then Pro. I would say my experience in army staff, it had a lot of dramatic hoops because certain things that were going on at the time and certain, relevant events that happened while I was in army staff, for example, when I was in CSA. But overall, I think there were times that I enjoyed being army staff, but there were also times that I really wanted to leave. I was also kind of pressured into staying a couple of times. So I would say for the most part, army staff was pretty much a strenuous, like a stressing kind of experience, but also memorable, I guess. If I am being honest, this community, well, this group really strives heavily on its community. It did have its, developmental, growth spurts, but I wouldn't say development-wise it's gonna have a huge difference. But in terms of community, I think maybe they're finding a way to, make things more advanced. But otherwise, I really don't see much of a difference in general in, UCR. So I'm not really sure how it will be in a year from now. Well, I've only been here for 2 months after being absent for like a year and a half or two. Well, in that 2 months, I've honestly have been more focused on MIC and what I have to do there and just other things rather than looking over army staff as much. But something I would probably know is that I think the current administration is interesting. It has an interesting structure. I really am not sure of how the CSA is really. I'm not really sure of how SMA is, nor the VCSA or anything about that. The only person that I really talk to in the administration is Pro, and that's even on, rare occasions. I really don't interact with them enough to, have an actual opinion on them. But from a distance, it seems like they're pretty fine. I think the community has its ups and downs. I've definitely experienced both sides of that sword. I dealt with, the pretty fun types and, the very enjoyable type of people and side of the community. But I also dealt with the very bad part of it where I had to deal with for like a straight year and a half, which is also the reason why I was absent from USAR for that long. But as I came back here, I think the community, I think it's better off now. It still has, their ups and downs, but I think the community is pretty fine. Thinking back, I think the only thing I would do differently is how I made certain decisions. And I guess my overall judgment in certain calls I've made. I definitely thrive through, doing my job and going up the ranks. I was definitely known for that. But I think my downfall was certain decisions I made, including a very grave one, and it has resulted in very severe consequences. But at the same time, that's not really defining of who I am. At least, definitely not anymore. I definitely changed from making my decision and all that. So I guess that's really the only thing. I really wouldn't change how I joined, where I went, who I interacted with, except for one person. But I wouldn't really change much. That's a very hard question for me because I went through, once again, both sides of the sword, and I see both sides of the community. So my answer, if I want to be brutally honest, I'll give it maybe like a 6. It's good, but it can also be very negative in some aspects. But I think it has overall, improved from that part of the negative aspect, and it has changed for the better, at least from what I've seen so far.
Why did you choose Zanance as USAR?
Huh?